Does your squat get wonky, especially as you approach heavier weights? Is there a noticeable shift to one side that gets increasingly bad as you fatigue in a set or get close to your max? Well, even if not, stay tuned for some tips and fixes to keep you lifting heavier and healthier. While this list isn't comprehensive, it will cover a vast majority of the issues and supply good options to fix them. Also, make sure that you do your normal squat work with these unless it's egregiously bad and really needs addressed fast. How bad is too bad is probably a different video topic entirely, but it's hard to tell if something is working if you aren't doing the thing that you're trying to fix. These aren't magic pills, but tools in your toolbox to address specific issues. Make sure to video those squats so you can see yourself and if the shift is lessening over time. Especially if you're new to squatting or you've been squatting with poor technique from the beginning, your hip shift may just be caused from poor movement patterns. I would address it by focusing on controlling the entire movement. I use these very controlled squats with beginner lifters in their warm-up and have them practice up to 4 times per week for technique. For a few sets of goblet squats or even with the bar on your back in warm-up sets, go slow. You want to feel every position of the movement up and down and be in perfect position. We have a video on how to squat to see what that would look like, but once you have that understanding, just accumulate lots of reps, moving as deliberately and consciously as possible. If you're learning how to squat, you may nail it down quickly, but if you've already ingrained bad habits, it might take longer to translate to your main squat work. Having one side be stronger than the other can be quite common and lead to bilateral movements like the squat to favor or shift to one side. The quickest way to test this is to set up some Bulgarian split squats and build up to a reasonably heavy set of 5 on both legs. If one leg is clearly stronger, you want to address that. I'm talking like you do 3 reps grinding on the left leg, and then the right leg you can bang out 10 no problem. Not that you can do 5 on the left and 6 on the right. If that is the case, start including various single leg work into your program. Split squats, step ups, lunges, etc. I would recommend doing 1 to 2 extra sets on the weak side. Start accumulating some more volume on the weak side and steadily build it up close to your strong side. Related to one side being stronger than the other, one side being less flexible than the other could also lead to some hip shifting. This is less common and also pretty easy to address. Test it by stretching various ways to each side for the lower body and especially the hips and quads. If you notice one side is significantly tighter over a few sessions, then address this by simply stretching that side more until it catches up. Spend an extra 5 minutes a few times a week really stretching that side good, and it should catch up fairly quickly. A big reason you might have trouble with a hip shift is a lack of stability. Now, this won't cover everything, but I can give you a few ways to test and improve this. I recommend doing these barefoot so you can really focus on the balance aspect and connecting your feet to the ground. My go-tos are the single leg squat and the single leg RDL. If both sides are bad or one side is clearly worse than the other, you should spend some time addressing this. These are great to add to your warm-up or even on off days at home while you watch TV. To address your stability that might be leading to hip shifts in the squat, we want to see you get to at least parallel on these pistol squats, but deeper is generally better. I also prefer to use a heel block or slant board to remove some of the ankle mobility needed to do a genuine pistol squat. We want to show control through the whole movement. If you start wobbling like mad, you likely have an issue there. A good goal is 5 clean reps on each side and that each side is roughly even in its ability. The single leg RDL is another great tool to test and train your stability that might be leading to your hip shift. Control the knee position perfectly and slowly lower yourself. Master this with body weight first and then add weight. Try getting to around 50% of your body weight for 5 to 8 reps under control. If you can do that and pistol squat well, your stability might not be perfect, but it will be better than most and likely isn't leading to your hip shift. Especially if one side is restricted compared to the other in external or internal rotation, it could lead to significant hip shifting. This is a more complicated topic and I would like to do a deeper dive on it at some point. However, I can give you a solid drill and test to help improve your rotation. To test and improve your hip internal or external rotation, start by laying on your back and pick one leg up. For internal rotation, turn your femur, thigh inwards and hold for 10 seconds, holding the knee in the same spot. For external rotation, turn it in the opposite direction. We want around 40-ish degrees of rotation and a roughly equal amount on each side. Doing this a few times a week for 3 to 4 sets of 10-second holds, and definitely on days before you squat, should start to show noticeable improvements in most people. You can also attach a light band to your ankle to provide resistance. Even if the degree of rotation isn't the issue, one side could be a bit weaker than the other, and then utilizing some more resistance and strengthening your weak side could help as well. I will throw a disclaimer about the internal and external rotation just to make you aware. The reason this is more complicated is because it can be directly related to your hip structure and can be harder to overcome those issues. You can't really make meaningful changes on how your hip sits in the socket. If your hip internal or external rotation is really poor, but you don't have mobility, stability, or strength issues in general, this may be something to look into deeper with a PT or orthopedic if it's causing you problems. If everything feels great weight and you have a good looking squat, you are fine. It may also just come down to changing your squat stance to best align with your hip structure. Check out this video from Juggernaut Training Systems on finding your squat stance. If you have everything else on this list mastered and you're still struggling with your hip shift, focusing on your neuromuscular control and the squatting motion could do the trick. Unless, of course, you just have one leg considerably longer than the other and then maybe just do single leg work. This is especially true if you can squat well at pretty light weights, but things get wonkier the heavier you go. You basically want to train your body to fight harder in the direction opposite your shift. So if you shift left, have the band pull on your right side to push you left. Now try to squat correctly while fighting the band tension. Over time, this teaches your body to shift back to the center. I like to do like 3 reps of this holding a light weight as I warm up. So do a set of 3 here and then do your first set of actual squats. Keep doing this with every set of squats for at least a few months. If you aren't a competitive squatter, you don't have to squat. You can address leg strength with other means. You should try to address these points to balance out your body, but if something external is the main cause, like a bad injury that isn't likely getting remedied anytime soon, just do mostly single leg work and variations that don't compromise your positioning. No one has to squat, but it is a great exercise and we should strive to be healthy and balanced enough to be capable of doing it. Work towards it, but don't get too worked up, especially if it isn't that important to you. Even if you don't have a bad hip shift, these are all great things to test, as a lack of strength or stability may lead to other issues, or you might just get ahead of future problems. Either way, if your squat is perfect, use these tips to help somebody else. Let me know in the comments if you want videos addressing any other issues in various lifts or movements, and stay tuned to improve your sports performance, health, and nutrition.